faster. Yeah. Weird.
Ironheart is practically unwatchable. Toot toot, Jerry laughs. Yes, there is an alphabet character. They admit Ironheart sucks, but look, they're getting ready to blame you for it because Ironheart fulfills low expectations with weak narrative, poorly written characters, and dull acting.
In this, I'm not sure what they're meant to be, because this character isn't to be confused with Slug.
Slug, our hacker extraordinaire.
Who is also the exact opposite in the same show. I'm really confused.
Dominique Thorne, I have seen all of the first 3 episodes of Ironheart.
Yeah, and it's like the real Tony Stark gets like back somehow, and there's like a moment where she's flying through and he's like, who's that? And she's like, I'm Ironheart, Mr. Stark. And he's like, I like that girl. And then he like goes to do something else. Like that would be like the level of something that I think would possibly happen.
How did this even come about?
What if Marvel just risked away one of its most important rising stars, all to save the MCU from collapsing on itself? For years, Marvel built its empire on Tony Stark, a character so iconic that Robert Downey Jr. became the face of an entire cinematic universe. And when he left the stage, Marvel didn't just lose Iron Man, they lost the anchor that held the entire franchise together. The solution? A new hero meant to pick up the mantle, a character who could carry the weight of that billion-dollar legacy. And that hero was supposed to be Ironheart. At the center of it all was Dominique Thorne, cast as Riri Williams. Disney promised she would be the genius prodigy stepping into Tony Stark's shoes, the one who would prove that Marvel's best days weren't behind it. But here's the shocking twist. What was hyped as Marvel's future has spiraled into one of the studio's most explosive controversies.
Natalie AI thing seems utterly preposterous and ridiculous, and even for an MCU show, I'm finding it to be a little bit of a bridge too far to go. The Heist crew, all lame. Every single one of them. All
Instead of becoming Marvel's next superstar, Dominique is now caught in rumors, petitions, and casting battles so savage they've split the fan base in half. And at the heart of it all is another name you didn't expect, Rachel Zegler. That's right, the very same actress already making headlines as Disney's live-action Snow White is now rumored to be stepping into Dominique's armor. What began as whispers on Twitter has snowballed into one of the ugliest fan wars Marvel has ever faced. Petitions with hundreds of thousands of signatures, YouTubers tearing apart Dominique's performance, TikTok edits comparing Robert Downey Jr. to Dominique in the most savage ways possible. And behind the scenes, executives allegedly drafting 2 separate versions of Ironheart Season 2, one with Dominique and one with Rachel. But how did it come to this? How did Marvel's supposed heir to Iron Man turn into the most controversial casting battle in MCU history? Let's rewind, because the story of Ironheart didn't begin with failure. It began with promises that Marvel might not have been able to keep.
That she's having on young Black girls, and I'm going to be completely honest, on Black women.
You know, this is yet another area that's getting vibrant. It's getting full in the way.
When Marvel first introduced the idea of Ironheart, it wasn't just another spin-off. It was framed as a cultural milestone, a young Black genius who could outthink Tony Stark himself, stepping into a world that desperately needed a fresh face. The announcement was bold. Dominique Thorne would play Riri Williams, and she wasn't just any character. She was Marvel's declaration that the MCU was moving forward, evolving beyond its old icons. From the start, Disney poured weight into the casting. Dominique wasn't positioned as a side character or a background hero. She was framed as the future. Marvel hyped her as the centerpiece of Phase 5, the crown jewel of what was supposed to be the MCU's rebirth. She would represent intelligence, representation, and resilience, all wrapped in one role. And for a while, fans bought into the dream. When Dominique appeared briefly in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, there was a spark of hope. She wasn't given much screen time, but the seeds were planted. Marvel had made their choice. Ironheart would inherit the legacy of Iron Man. But here's the catch. This wasn't just about one actress or one role. This was Marvel staking its entire identity on whether audiences could connect with a brand new face. Iron Man wasn't just popular. He was the foundation of the MCU, and whoever came next would be judged not on their own merits, but against Robert Downey Jr. himself. That's not just pressure. That's a setup for disaster. Because as much as Marvel hyped up Dominique, the expectations were impossible. Fans weren't just asking, can she be good? They were asking, can she be legendary? And when Ironheart finally debuted on Disney+, the answer, at least from fans, was devastating. When Ironheart Season 1 finally dropped, Disney expected a celebration. What they got instead was chaos. Critics might have been cautious, offering mild reviews, but the fans, they were savage. Comment sections filled with harsh takes almost immediately. TikTok edits went viral comparing Dominique's debut to Robert Downey Jr.'s unforgettable moments as Iron Man. The contrast was painful. This is the replacement became a meme in itself. Reddit threads with thousands of upvotes debated whether Dominique was the weakest Marvel lead yet. YouTubers jumped in with breakdowns like Ironheart's big mistake and why Dominique can't carry the MCU. Even Even Marvel-friendly fan accounts struggled to defend the show. And here's the worst part. It wasn't just about Dominique's performance. Fans called the scripts weak, the pacing dull, the supporting cast forgettable. But because Dominique was the face of the series, all the blame landed on her shoulders. Fair or not, she became the lightning rod for everything fans hated about Ironheart. The numbers told the same story. In its first 3 days, Ironheart was trounced by Daredevil, which pulled in over 300 million minutes viewed in the same time frame, despite being shorter. For a show that was supposed to be the future of Marvel, Ironheart struggled to even compete with Marvel's older, less hyped properties.
Was a massive disappointment in the ratings for them, certainly. We do know, when you go and you look at through these charts, the first couple days it was out, because we have 3 days of Ironheart in these numbers, just like we had 3 days of Daredevil in these numbers. And Daredevil in those first 3 days had over 300 million minutes watched. So, and that was with less possible runtime than something like Ironheart. Yet we know that it hasn't.
This was a nightmare scenario. Dominique's dream role, the one meant to propel her into superstardom, had instead painted a target on her back. And once the internet smelled that, things got worse. The narrative shifted from Ironheart isn't landing to Dominique Thorne can't carry Marvel. And whether that was true or not didn't matter anymore. In the age of fan edits, viral memes, and endless online commentary, perception is reality. But then came the twist that no one saw coming. The rumors that Rachel Zegler, Disney's brand new Snow White, might be stepping into Dominique's role. What started as a whisper was about to turn into the MCU's most explosive casting war. At first, fans thought the backlash would blow over. Maybe Marvel would tweak the writing for season 2. Maybe Dominique would get a second chance to prove herself. After all, even Robert Downey Jr. didn't perfect Tony Stark in his first outing. There was still room for redemption. But then, almost out of nowhere, whispers began circulating online. Leaks, rumors, cryptic posts from so-called industry insiders. And all of them pointed to the same shocking idea. Marvel was considering replacing Dominique Thorne with another actress entirely. And not just any actress, but Rachel Zegler. That's when the fandom truly imploded. Rachel was already a lightning rod for controversy because of her role in Disney's upcoming Snow White. Some fans praised her talent and vocal ability, but others claimed she wasn't the right fit. Every time her name trended, it came with arguments, backlash, and memes. So imagine the reaction when her name suddenly got tied to Ironheart. At first, people laughed it off. Surely Disney wouldn't pull the plug on Dominique after just one season, right? But then the internet did what the internet does best. It turned speculation into inevitability. Fan art of Rachel in the Ironheart armor spread across Twitter and TikTok like wildfire. TikTok edits framed her as the savior of the MCU, set to bring the charisma Dominique supposedly lacked. Within days, hashtags like Rachel is Ironheart and recast Ironheart were trending globally. Fan accounts created trailers, Photoshop edits, and cinematic mock-ups of Rachel stepping into the suit. And the more this content spread, the more believable the rumors became. The timing made everything even worse. Snow White was already in production, and Rachel's name was dominating headlines almost daily. She was everywhere, and for Disney, that visibility might have looked like a lifeline. If Dominique couldn't carry the franchise on her own, maybe Rachel's rising fame could. What really lit the fire, though, was when Rachel herself added fuel to the rumors, without saying a word. A simple Instagram selfie went viral after fans noticed the metallic red and gold reflections behind her. No caption, no explanation, just enough detail for Marvel fans to connect the dots. To them, it looked like a deliberate hint, a tease, almost a confirmation that she was stepping into the role. And from that moment, the debate stopped being about whether Rachel could replace Dominique. It became about whether Disney had already made the decision. Some fans saw Rachel as a star who could bring the MCU back to life. Others saw her as a threat, a symbol of Disney abandoning one actress before she ever had a fair chance. The result? A fandom at war. And caught right in the middle of that storm was Dominique Thorne. For weeks, Dominique said nothing. No statements, no interviews, no comments on the rumors. At first, it looked like she was keeping her cool, rising above the chaos. But silence doesn't last forever. And when Dominique finally broke it, the internet went into meltdown. It started with cryptic Instagram posts. One read, "People love to replace you before you're even gone." Fans immediately connected it to Rachel. Screenshots spread across Twitter in minutes, sparking endless debates. Was she subtweeting Marvel? Was this aimed at Disney executives? Or was it Rachel herself? Then came another post. They'll smile in your face and plan your exit behind your back. It didn't take a genius to know what she was implying. By now, the rumors weren't just gossip. They felt personal. Dominique's frustration was spilling out in real time, and fans could sense it. The biggest shock, though, came when she tweeted something even bolder. Funny how people pretend to know the whole story when all they've seen is a trailer. Good luck with your new Ironheart. Within an hour, the tweet was deleted, but it was too late. Screenshots were everywhere. The internet never forgets. That one deleted post was enough to ignite the war all over again. Dominique's supporters defended her, saying she was set up to fail with weak scripts and poor direction. They argued she had every right to feel betrayed, that Marvel had given her the impossible task of replacing Tony Stark and then left her out to dry. But her critics? They pounced. They called her unprofessional. They said her cryptic posts proved Disney made the right move. They argued that Rachel's silence looked strong and controlled, while Dominique Dominique's fury looked unstable, and in a fandom already leaning toward Rachel, that silence carried more weight than any statement. Meanwhile, Rachel played the game differently. She didn't post angry posts or take shots online. She kept calm, composed, and most importantly, strategic. That quiet confidence became its own kind of power. Fans started interpreting her restraint as proof that she was the professional choice, the one Disney could trust to handle the spotlight. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. Dominique, emotional and raw, versus Rachel, silent and untouchable. And to millions of Marvel fans, that difference told the whole story. But Dominique's posts weren't just about venting. They hinted at something deeper, that the betrayal wasn't just internet speculation, that behind the scenes, Marvel might really be planning her exit. And if that was true, then the fight over Ironheart wasn't just about casting. It was about loyalty, betrayal, and the future of the MCU itself. And what happened next would prove just how explosive this drama was about to get. If Dominique's cryptic posts caused sparks, the fan base turned them into a wildfire. What started as speculation turned into a full-blown online war, with the Marvel fandom splitting into two rival armies, Team Dominique and Team Rachel. On one side, Dominique's supporters fought hard to defend her. They argued that she'd been set up from the very beginning, that no one could possibly live up to Robert Downey Jr., and expecting Dominique to do it was unfair. She's not Tony Stark, one viral TikTok insisted. She's Riri Williams, a brand new character, and she deserves time to grow into the role. Mimi's framed her as a victim of weak scripts, poor direction, and impossible expectations. To her defenders, Dominique wasn't the problem. Marvel was, but the other side was just as passionate, if not louder. Rachel's supporters flooded timelines with edits, fan trailers, and comparisons. They pointed to her Broadway background, her vocal performances, her charisma on stage and in interviews. Rachel is bold. She's fearless. She can carry a franchise, one fan tweeted. Hashtags like Rachel can save Marvel and recast Ironheart started trending almost daily. Petitions appeared, gaining traction faster than anyone expected. One, bluntly titled Rachel Zegler for Ironheart, spread like wildfire and passed 200,000 signatures in just a few days. The description pulled no punches. Dominique had her shot, but Ironheart needs real star power. Rachel Zegler can save the MCU. The words stung, but the numbers didn't lie. Even fan sites and influencers began taking sides. YouTubers cranked out videos with titles like Why Rachel is the Future of Marvel and Dominique was never the right choice. Mimi pages that had once supported Dominique quietly pivoted into Rachel fan accounts. Meanwhile, Dominique's defenders doubled down, creating their own hashtags like hashtag Justice for Dominique and hashtag She is Ironheart. The chaos wasn't just online either. Fan conventions, usually filled with cosplay and hype, started to feel like battlegrounds. Panels discussing Marvel's future were taken over by questions about Rachel versus Dominique. Some fans cheered Dominique's name, others booed at the mere mention. It wasn't just a debate anymore. It was a cultural war inside the Marvel community. The intensity left Disney with no way to ignore the issue. What had started as whispers of a recast had exploded into one of the most visible fandom divides in recent memory. And while fans battled it out online, the real war was quietly unfolding behind closed doors at Marvel Studios. Inside Marvel's offices, the tension was just as fierce as it was online. According to insiders, executives and creative teams were split into two camps, just like the fans. On one side were the loyalists, writers and producers who believed Dominique deserved another shot. They argued that Season 1's problems weren't all on her shoulders. Weak scripts, rushed production, and the monumental pressure of being the next Iron Man had made success almost impossible. Even Robert Downey Jr. didn't perfect Tony Stark in one movie, one insider reportedly said. Their argument was simple. Dominique just needed time to grow, and firing her now would be unfair, short-sighted, and damaging to Marvel's reputation for representation. But on the other side were the realists. These were the executives staring at numbers, charts, and social media metrics. To them, the decision was obvious. Audiences weren't connecting. Petitions with hundreds of thousands of signatures weren't something to ignore. Hashtags trending daily meant Dominique had lost the fan base. And the longer Disney hesitated, the more momentum the MCU risked losing. The divide grew so intense that insiders claim Disney actually commissioned two different scripts for Ironheart Season 2. One version kept Dominique in the lead, with Rachel Zegler introduced as a supporting character. The other version flipped the script entirely, slowly phasing Dominique out while Rachel took over as the new Ironheart. The idea of preparing both options shows just how desperate and divided the studio had become. But this wasn't just about creative choices. It was cultural and financial all at once. Replacing Dominique would almost certainly trigger outrage over representation. For many fans, Dominique wasn't just an actress. She symbolized progress, a young black woman leading Marvel into its next era. To cast her aside could look like betrayal. On the other hand, keeping her meant risking another season of lukewarm reception, weak numbers, and the perception that Marvel was stuck in decline. The MCU had already been accused of losing steam after Endgame, and another flop could push that narrative further. Behind closed doors, meetings reportedly turned heated. One faction argued for loyalty and growth, the other demanded a bold reset. And in the middle of it all was Kevin Feige himself, trying to decide whether Marvel should protect its long-term image or risk on Rachel's star power to revive a billion-dollar franchise. The stakes couldn't have been higher. What should have been Marvel's future was now its biggest risk. And as the executives clashed in boardrooms, the situation on set was about to get even uglier. The drama wasn't just confined to Twitter threads or Marvel boardrooms. According to insiders, the tension boiled over onto the set itself. Disney reportedly tried to keep Dominique Thorne and Rachel Zegler apart during early test shoots, staggering schedules so the two actresses wouldn't cross paths. But that plan didn't last. One afternoon, Dominique arrived unannounced, only to find Rachel filming in a prototype Ironheart suit. Witnesses described the moment as chilling. Dominique froze, staring at Rachel in armor that was supposed to be hers. Crew members whispered that the silence was heavier than any script they had ever written. Without a word, Dominique turned and walked out. The atmosphere on set cracked in an instant. That night, eagle-eyed fans noticed Dominique had unfollowed Marvel's official account on Instagram. Hours later, every behind-the-scenes photo related to Ironheart disappeared from her page. It didn't take long for people to connect the dots. Dominique wasn't just upset, she was done. From there, morale on set reportedly split. Some cast and crew sided with Dominique, arguing she'd been sabotaged from the beginning. They claimed she was handed weak scripts and impossible expectations. Others backed Rachel, pointing to her professionalism and presence as the energy Marvel desperately needed. The set stopped feeling like a Marvel production and started feeling like a battlefield. The turmoil wasn't limited to the cast either. Rumors spread that producers and department heads were quietly taking sides, making every meeting feel like a power struggle. What was supposed to be Marvel's next blockbuster had become a production weighed down by whispers, tension, and mistrust. And while chaos brewed on set, the storm outside only grew louder. Hashtags spiked, YouTubers dissected every rumor, and leaks from insiders painted a picture of a studio in crisis. For Marvel, the problem wasn't just whether Rachel or Dominique should play Ironheart. The problem was that the entire fandom was watching them stumble in real time. By this point, Marvel had reached a breaking point. They couldn't keep two parallel versions of the show alive forever. They had to choose. The decision carried weight far beyond one character. On one hand was Dominique Thorne, Marvel's bold promise of representation, a young actress symbolizing progress in the future. To cast her aside would ignite outrage, not just from fans, but from cultural critics, journalists, and communities that had celebrated her casting as a historic moment. On the other hand was Rachel Zegler, already controversial but undeniably visible. She brought name recognition, mainstream attention, and the kind of rising star energy Disney believed could reignite the MCU. Keeping Dominique was safe. Choosing Rachel was risky, but potentially explosive. Executives knew whichever path they chose, the backlash would be fierce. Keep Dominique, and the fan petitions and criticism might continue to snowball. Choose Rachel, and Disney risked accusations of betrayal and abandoning diversity for the sake of numbers. Either way, the fallout wouldn't just affect Ironheart. It would echo across the entire MCU. This wasn't just about a casting choice. It was about Marvel's identity. Would they stand by the actress they promised as their next icon? Or would they risk on Rachel Zegler to save the franchise, even if it meant alienating a massive portion of their audience? The war wasn't just on Twitter anymore. It wasn't just in leaked scripts or deleted posts. It was now a full-scale cultural battle, with Marvel Studios standing at the most dangerous crossroads of its modern history. Dominique Thorne was once hailed as the face of Marvel's future, the genius set to inherit Iron Man's legacy and prove that the MCU's brightest days weren't behind it. But in just one season, that dream unraveled. Harsh reviews, endless memes, fan debates, and now Rachel Zegler's rumored rise have turned Dominique's breakout role into the most divisive casting war Marvel has ever faced. Behind closed doors, executives are split. On set, tension simmers. And online, fans fight daily over whether Dominique deserves loyalty or Rachel deserves the armor. What started as a superhero show has spiraled into something much bigger, a battle over representation, loyalty, and the very future of Marvel's storytelling. So here's the question that no one can answer just yet. Is Rachel Zegler truly the savior Marvel needs? Or is Disney about to make the biggest mistake in MCU history? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Team Dominique or Team Rachel? Because one thing is certain, this battle is far from over.